Hey guys, what's happening? So just real quick, picking apart this new promo image of Avengers Endgame, and really when I seen it Friday, I wasn't gonna do this video because I wasn't sure if it was official or not. Because the first time I'd seen it, it was like super low res, looking kind of janky. I was like, nah, I don't know. And initially I couldn't find much more on it, so I was just like, okay, whatever. But now it's everywhere and confirmed on top of confirmed, so let's get into it. But one of the first things I want to point out as far as the logo, now, they have done like the purple, blue, and gold logo before for Avengers Endgame with a hint of red ever so slightly at the bottom, to which I am sure is driving everyone crazy with those reality stone theories floating around on the internet, which could hold weight, but I mean, we won't really know until we see the film. But in my opinion, as far as the different colors, they're more like a representation of the 4 Avengers films, with blue for the first one, red for Age of Ultron, gold for Infinity War, and of course purple for Endgame, which could mean more, but we'll find out soon enough. But in addition to that, we also get an homage with the word Endgame going from a solid to a transparent gradient, which is another thing which could either play as a reminder of the snap from Infinity War, or as a bit of foreshadowing like we got in the first trailer for Endgame with the logo and title reforming at the end. Because we know somehow, some way the Avengers gotta fix this. And we all know that guy with the hammer who's able to do that. And who else would I be talking about but Fix It Felix Jr. with this multiversal god level hammer. But no, for real. But starting with Thor, who we get a better look at his eyes than we've had from the first couple of trailers, with this image being a lot brighter than a lot of promotion we saw before. But with us seeing this here, regardless of how much time has passed, we do get the better idea that Thor still has the different color eye, which in my opinion was pretty clear to see in the Super Bowl trailer, unlike much of the other promo stuff with his right eye being brown instead of blue. But at the same time with that lighting, it's like, how much can you really trust that? And on top of that, I really don't think that's one of the things that Marvel Studios would try to hide, like we talked about in the last video, unless there's an alternate universe inside of Thor's eye that's gonna save everybody. Like on some old Men in Black type stuff. But then again, Thor and Valkyrie are in the new Men in Black. Shared universe confirmed. Now let me not do that because some of y'all might believe it. But really for Thor, the eye and the suit are the main things. His traditional suit, which he's still wearing in the image, is the same as what we saw in the Super Bowl trailer. And although it seems to have a bit more blue rather than black, like we had seen in Infinity War, that could possibly just be the lighting of the image making it seem more brighter, or this could possibly be hinting at him changing the color for the same reason that we see Rocket in his blue and red uniform, which we got our first look at in the Super Bowl Endgame teaser trailer. Which really gives me the idea more so of Thor and Rocket staying together through whatever amount of time that it was, be it months or years, especially with the two of these guys losing pretty much everybody that they had before, with all of the Guardians gone and only a small fraction of the Asgardians left after being slaughtered and then decimated in the snap. But if this is a color change as it appears to be, this could just be hinting towards the beginning of Thor staying on Earth, returning to Norway, which is where he'll meet Valkyrie and the other survivors from Asgard, and from there begin to rebuild Asgardia with the help of Rocket, who really has nowhere else to go. But I just think it would be pretty cool to see throughout the course of this film, starting from a wood shed and now we're here, just proposing the new idea that this shot here is actually Asgardia, which Thor, Valkyrie, and the others had perhaps started on using parts from the ship in the aid of Rocket prior to Tony Stark returning and giving it the serious upgrade. And even though in the comics it's Iron Man who built Asgardia, and when we do see it in the MCU, it is most likely that he will. But with us also having Shuri and, you know, Black Panther's coming back, but with the available resources on Earth, there are a number of ways that this could go down or go up, because it floats. But I gotta say, like, if Wakanda does help out with Asgardia is gonna be nice, but I can just imagine Shuri, or more likely Okoye, being like, okay, y'all can get nice, but y'all can't get nice. Like, we ain't just gonna give y'all everything. But next up, getting to Tony Stark, who we see is wearing the brand new suit, which we've got a number of leaks for before. But here we see him with the suit in the official promo, to which one of the most notable differences is the gold going all the way up the arms, all the way up the shoulders. And in the comics, where we got the first appearance of this suit in Tales of Suspense Volume 1, issue number 48, this ran very close to your first appearance of Black Widow in your Hawkeye origin. And I went a lot more into depth about this in a previous video, back around the time when we started getting our Avengers 4 leaks, way before we even got the title of Endgame. And since then, some much better looks at the suit had surfaced, giving us a better look at what we might expect, because at the time when they first leaked, they looked a lot like the images on the left, or the image on the left if you want to call that an image, because it literally looked like somebody just threw up gold and red pixels on a black canvas. But it looks better now. And so the last thing I want to say about Iron Man before I move on is somebody had mentioned to me, and I'll admit when I initially saw it, I just looked at it and thought nothing of it. But somebody mentioned to me, like, how come Iron Man has the arc reactor like inside of his chest, like in the shot that we seen with him and Nebula working on something, which appears to be their plan of execution on how they're gonna get Tony back to Earth. But I gotta admit, when this was brought to my attention and I looked back at the first Endgame trailer, Tony also had it in his chest in that trailer as well, which is different because we know in Iron Man 3 that he had it removed when at the time he pretty much quit being Iron Man. But with us seeing it again in these trailers, in his moments while in despair and making his last message of distress as he only has a few hours to live, just noticing it now kind of throws me off a little bit. But at least we see here in the promo that he's read up on his nanotech, and yo, this just popped in my head just now, so don't get mad. But what if in addition to getting help from Nebula, she had helped him find a suitable replacement for all the nanites that he had used and lost on Titan in order to buy him some time so they could come up with another solution? And I know that is a stretch Armstrong, but if it's right, you heard it here first, and it's immortalized on the internet. But next up, going to Steve Rogers, who is back in the Captain America suit and a little bit different this time with the eagle feather texture on the chest and arms. But much like I mentioned in the Super Bowl trailer breakdown, the hands and wrists on this suit show no sign of Stark tech, which is something that we got a pretty good look at back with Age of Ultron with the visible pieces that would call the shield back. And because we know since the time of Spider-Man Homecoming that Tony Stark has been working on a new shield for Captain America, I'm just gonna step out there again and say that at some point Cap is gonna get a shield that can seemingly form out of thin air, much like Iron Man's suit. And with Cap's shield being made of vibranium, and with Wakanda opening up a little bit more since the events of Black Panther, I do see this as a possibility that is within reach, which also makes it possible that this new shield, being that it is vibranium, could in addition do a lot more than just go bounce off of something and come back. But next, going to Black Widow, who has her red and blonde ombre hair, which has grown out over an amount of time. And for the record, ombre is just a change of color from one to the next. When the hair changes color, some do it naturally, some do it intentionally, but over an amount of time, you dye your hair one color, the other color go eventually grow back. But us seeing this isn't necessarily new. We've seen this in leaked photos before from the set, but also what throws me once again with this is from the trailers, when we seen Black Widow shooting in the range, and it is dark in this shot, but you can see that her hair is all blonde, and just seeing that throws me again. So the next thing I thought about was the length of it, which we can't really tell in the red because we can't see the back to know what type of braid specifically she has in there. But from just looking at this and putting it in comparison to footage from the trailer with her having the shorter hair as well, in what seemed to be present day, it leads me to believe that at this point, from the scene where she has the shorter hair then to the scene where she has the longer hair, that it's possible that we get the longer hair first with her hair dyed completely blonde, representing the undisturbed timeline after the snap or the decimation, to where eventually this Black Widow will be visited by Ant-Man, who speaks to her and whoever's left in this future, and possibly a future where they find out that Tony Stark is dead because he starved to death in space, ran out of oxygen and food. But after that, Ant-Man time jumps again the same way that he got there via the quantum realm, to where he jumps back to an earlier time, possibly making more than one or maybe more than two arrivals, with the first arrival being too late, the second arrival being too early, and the arrival that was really too early, it'll pretty much explain the footage from the first trailer that appeared to be archived footage. But when he realizes that he's arrived too early, this is when he comes back to more of your present day, where Widow has the short blonde hair, and years later as we see that play out, she does not dye her hair again, letting the red roots grow out and visually representing a different version or a different timeline of reality, where this version of the Avengers knows what needs to be done. And I know that's another stretch, but man, I'm feeling flexible today. And I gotta say, I think that last one kind of makes the most sense, because in addition to her hair and her costume difference, which is the biggest thing that's like yelling at me right now, and it's not what you think, it's not the additional red accents, but rather it is because she is the only one in this picture who is wearing the wrist device, which has been the center of every time traveling rumor, every barfing technology rumor that has been taking the internet by storm, which is also the reason why I believe Black Widow is possibly one of the first people that Ant-Man had met, and for whatever reason Lang finds out that Widow is one of the main people who have to make this jump because he can't do it alone. And my guess is not long after that we'll see the same for both Steve Rogers and for Tony Stark, to when after it reaches Tony, he'll then build the suits that all the Avengers can wear, using the research that Lang has provided from Hank Pym, so that then they can execute their endgame strategy. But just going into a little more detail about Black Widow for a second, then I'll move on. But getting back into the idea of this Black Widow with the red hair being the Black Widow moving forward forward after Lang re-jumped after going too late and too early, but I also want to add that my theory also leans on with her device being built into this suit that theoretically this is also a sign of the time that has passed since Scott Lang finally arrived in the present, gave the Avengers all the information they needed to know, including since he had misjumped twice, going too far into the future and then going too far into the past, which they saw in the footage. But when he finally arrives at the present, where we have the Black Widow with the short blonde hair, but when he arrives at this present, he also tells him, oh yeah, Tony died in the future because he starved in space, so we need to kind of go get him. And when the present Avengers get this information, they're able to go and save Tony, who hasn't died yet, but who has rather found a means of extending his life. And it would have been cool to see him just save himself like in Iron Man 1, but I think Avengers Endgame would be a much more compelling tale about them doing things together, which includes them saving Tony together and then Tony being alive saving everybody else by using all the information he's got from Scott Lang, the camaraderie of his teammates who never gave up, giving everybody a significant task at some point throughout the film. And so now when we get to Hawkeye, now this one's gonna blow your mind. No, I'm completely joking. I have nothing for this guy. I have nothing. And I mean, if anything, his hair isn't standing up in the back like it was in the trailer, but that's it. But I do gotta say, in his case, and as a partial disclaimer, we cannot see both sides of everybody's hands, and especially with the leaks that we had seen before that also included Banner or Mark Ruffalo wearing his mocap suit. Everyone who we had seen with the technology had it either on their right hand or their left hand, so it wasn't like everybody wore it on a specific hand. So keep in consideration at this point, everybody could be wearing a device. The possibilities are truly limitless, but as for right now, I'm still sticking with my Widow theory. But moving forward, because like I said, I really have nothing for Hawkeye, and I've done other theories on him in the past, but at this point I have nothing additional to add to that. But as for the Hulk, who is looking the most like Banner as we have ever seen him before, and the main thing that I want to point out about this is that it's mainly the evolution of Banner that we've been seeing, undoubtedly from Thor Ragnarok, which then later evolved in Avengers Infinity War to where the Hulk didn't want to come out because he felt used, which was really a plot device that the Russo brothers had used to set up the backstory between Banner and the Hulk getting to a place to where they had to figure out their own balance. And man, this just looks like Mark Ruffalo with super gains. But I like that we also see his suit that I would assume is a lot like the pants that he had back in Age of Ultron, to where it'll stay fitted regardless of the size that he's at, which again in my opinion is another consideration of the balance between the two, because when Banner hulks out, the Hulk always has pants when the pants are elastic or whatever, even when they're not. But when that happens, the Hulk always has pants, but when the Hulk turns back into Banner, Banner is just left with just the pants and no shirt. So at least this way, both of them are compensated for and nobody's left out. Balance. But that'll do it for this one, guys. I just wanted to share a few of my thoughts on this image, because the more I looked at the image, the more things jumped out at me, and then I went back and saw the trailers again, and when more things jumped out at me there, I just took all these things that jumped out at me and just threw them at y'all. And now we're here. So let me know your thoughts down below, and we'll do it again on the next one. Alright, later.